Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to today's. There he is. What a good-looking guy. I'm a little bit taller than you.
I can't see myself yet. So
There we go.
I see what you've done to me. I'm so worried.
Hello, Hindu Man, and all of your wonderful digital demolition man, or not demolition man, lawnmower man, or whatever that movie was. Okay, anyway, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Smite World Championship weekly qualifier season. It is week number 7. My name is hi-rez. Joining me to my left via the holographic projection unit just underneath the table here.
I look like a ghost.
The one and only Hindu Man.
I look like a ghost.
Also known as Sheet Man from Mega Man 3.
Okay, well, we can handle this.
Our first game today, ladies and gentlemen, is Scúm Gaming versus the fine people of Team 22, which Hindu Man and I will bring into you here shortly. And Hindu Man, first time NA? First time NA, I think.
First time Conquest NA. I did do
Siege.
Siege.
Yeah, you did the Siege.
But,
you did the Siege.
Yep, this is my first time to see what you've got on offer, and with 2 cognitive teams now as well, but you know.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Interesting.
The team formerly known as the Game Changers, now known as Team Cognitive Red. We'll see how they do. Although I think the first Cognitive is also red, at least in their logo and branding, so it's going to be maybe a little bit hard to differentiate them. But and welcome to the inaugural ball set, where we are red, white, and blue here for Raw America, and of course the Smite regional qualifier, the remainder of this season. So, Hinterman, excited to get into this one here today. Excited to cast with you. Shout outs to all the fans joining us here today, and we'll be getting underway relatively shortly. Not a lot of news to talk about necessarily in the North American esports scene outside of Cognitive Red, while picking up the Game Changers. And really still kind of waiting to see where the other foot is going to fall on the back end of these Warrior nerfs. I think a lot of teams still having trouble deciding exactly what they should pick, where they should pick it, and why.
Yeah, I mean, with the Warrior changes, what's happened is a lot of them have been left out because people are not sure exactly where they fit in now, especially with the rise of the mages, so to speak. For the solo lane, we're seeing more Habois, we're seeing a lot more Aphrodite being picked up, and even Chang'e has started hitting the scene as well, just because of all these Warrior changes. I mean, we've seen some of the Mana played still, you know, in the solo lane, but a lot of the other Warriors, to an extent, Bart, have all dropped off.
So, you know, I think when you look at where these bruisers match up against the mages, specifically in the solo lane, as you're mentioning, where we've seen most of the change, I think we're talking about, well, maybe the new item here, the
Ankile,
I think it is.
Is it Ankile?
I believe it's on.
I thought it was Ancil. I was guessing, but
I don't know. So you know, it was one of those things where someone tweeted at me like, you know, Ancile equals like 6 Greek letters, and that is pronounced Ankile. So I'm going to go with random Twitter guy. So anyway, point being that you know, a magical defensive item yielding power and cooldown reduction with stacks seems to be really fitting that role nicely.
I mean,
on the other side of that boat, Hindu Man, is the kind of chalk support. I guess he's been relegated to that role in many ways. Not quite as potent in the solo lane, but I think these items are really where you're going to see the Vamanas and the Chalks come back in a big way. And of course, lest we forget Hercules, also a very, very potent bruiser still in the solo lane. Also, this is going to be the final week where Hades is as potent as he is currently. I would expect to see him played as well.
Yeah, for a Guardian.
Probably Anatoly.
You know, for a Guardian, I mean, Hades does do a lot of damage, so not surprising to see the small touches to him there. He was basically playing a lot like a mage, and he was having great matchups in the solo lane and the middle lane because of that. And I heard you said something yesterday about him being like the highest win rate. I did not know that.
Yeah, Hades, generally speaking, looking at the stats, they indicate that he is the most overpowered god in the entire game. And has been for some time, in fact. If you remember the first time that we nerfed Hades a long time ago, which is, I believe, what was that nerf? I believe it was a death from below damage nerf originally with a buff to devour souls. That was the last change, and then prior to that, I believe there was just a straight nerf to the damage that Pillar of Agony did. Basically, all of these nerfs that happen to Hades come about 6 months apart because he just continues to be one of the most dominant gods in the game. And it's bizarre because, you know, you look at kind of the general feedback from players is that they feel he needs a buff, but according to really all of the metrics we have, he is wildly overpowered.
That's really interesting. I'd love to find out more about who's got the highest win, who's got the lowest win rate, Bard. Do you know that? Can you tell us?
Off the top of my head, the lowest win rate, usually the low tier assassins don't do very well because they're just very hard to play. Arachne, Loki, those types of things. Specifically in Conquest, they just don't do that well. Although Loki starting to see a resurgence in competitive play, which generally yields people playing them a bit better. For example, Loki was doing quite well when he was so viable in the solo lane as kind of a stalling farmer, and people kind of understood how that gameplay worked. It's harder for, I think, the average player to understand. You need to have really good positioning and pick the right target in every fight, right? That's a much harder proposition than use your number 2 and buy Heartseeker. So once the kind of the meta settles, I believe you'll see some of those gods continue to be more potent. Chalk being a good example of that as well, right? Chalk was having a hard time, I think, until people really saw exactly how he could be used in the support role in addition to the solo lane.
Exactly. I mean, I think with the warrior changes you guys have made overall, what we saw was the warriors drop off. But now with these items you're bringing out again, you're going to start seeing them brought in because you're going to be able to just slowly raise them back up to be on equal par with the mages and the assassins that were being picked in the solo lane instead now. I mean, I think the biggest reason for doing it was to make sure the guardians got played again, which is nice to see all the guardians coming through and start being picked up again.
Yeah, indeed. I think that the idea with warriors there, succinctly put, is they should. I'm getting like a squawky in my ear here. That's interesting. You're looking at basically it's feedback. I see. Okay. That the warriors are going to need to itemize basically to be where they need to be, and I think that's kind of the idea with introducing items like the Unkile is it allows them options to itemize into the roles that they really want to play in.
Yeah, exactly. So hopefully we'll see more items like that. And that Ankile is definitely going to be a top picked item, especially for the fact it gives you cooldown reduction. It's a stacking item, so you're going to get it early, and it gives you magical protection, so you'll be able to deal with a lot of those mages. So it's going to be an interesting pickup when we do get to see that one. So looking forward to that. At the moment, guys, we're still waiting on Team 22 and Scúm. I'll say it in a proper English accent.
Scúm.
Scúm. Team Scúm. They're going to be facing off in this first round. Once they get themselves going.
Yeah, we should have a game going here at any moment, I'd imagine. We're having the admins, of course, look into why this game is not going. Obviously, when we spectate the early round games, it is often teams that don't get an opportunity to play as often as some of the more tenured teams you're used to seeing. So we have. It sounds like there was maybe a bit of a DC issue, so we'll continue on there. But not so much we can say about these teams. Generally speaking, newer entrants into the Smite competitive series. The only thing I know about Team Scúm really is that Camping Carl, who if you watch my stream, you'll know exactly who that is. He is a gentleman that plays in almost every Conquest casual game that I have ever played in. Will be playing for Team Scúm, and I probably will be making fun of him at some point during this broadcast because, damn you, Carl.
He is your master sniper, is that what
he is my master sniper. Yeah, that's true.
I see. I sniped you yesterday. I really enjoyed doing that yesterday.
that was fun. That was fun.
It was such a shame we couldn't keep it going a bit longer. I was tempted to, but there was 10,000 people in chat hating on me.
Yeah, you would have made some.
And I was like, okay, I'll forfeit.
Yeah, that. I think we could have won. Although I was Fenrir.
We could have won, and Fenrir was okay. You were doing all right. We had some good link-ups at one point. Apart from I kept sacrificing.
Yeah, except for that ultimate. We tried to KS me, and then the guy got away.
It wasn't a KS, it was an assist. That's what God.
But we didn't kill him.
I know. Never mind. It happens to the best of us.
So how do you feel about your Kumbhakarna nerfs coming in? I think it's just because of that gameplay we saw yesterday.
I don't think it's enough, honestly. Like yeah. I've got legendary Kumbhakarna, so I can talk a bit about him now. And
sure.
He's really, really strong. I think he's got the best wave clear of any Guardian. He can even help out the weaker hunters as well, like Xbalanque, for example. He has a great laning phase with him because he can help his early game issues with wave clear.
What's interesting, though?
Everybody. I mean,
Xbalanque and Kumba, it's just such low synergy with the poison darts. I mean, it takes some serious execution to have that work.
It does. I mean, for the wave clear fighters, that's one of Xbalanque's biggest issues in the lane is the wave clear. And then you've got Cupid as well, who also suffers from that issue. And one of the other issues Cupid has is his Fields of Love. When that lands, it's very hard to confirm the damage on Cupid. And what Kumbhakarna does is it allows him to confirm that damage with the Epic Uppercut. So we should be in. We're in game. Finally,
we're in.
Team Scúm.
There we are. So it's 22 versus Team Scúm, where it looks like Carl is not playing for Team Scúm today. But it is underway here, ladies and gentlemen. Left side of your screen is Team 22. The right side is Scúm.
So Aphrodite's going to be the first ban for Team 22, and instantly responded is Scúm with Scylla.
So Scylla banned out here. So a couple of potent mages taken off the board. I think no real surprises there.
Not at all with that Scylla ban, that's for certain. I mean, Scylla until hopefully these changes will be enough to bring it down a little bit. I like the small little change you made to Crush overall. I think that's going to be a big one in the patch. Is just making sure that she can't insta cast right at her feet every second. It's really good, that one, I think.
Yeah. I mean, it's slowing down basically her shotgun is kind of what it's doing there. So looking for the final ban from Team Scum here in the first round of banning. Giving up first pick to Team 22 and electing to take the second 2 picks. Let's see what it's going to be. My expectation here is that they're going to want to ban out probably a high... Okay, no, it's going to be Osiris. I was expecting maybe something a little bit more of the mid-game kind of spot, because looking at who's banned out here, Hubwa and Scylla, both very late-game mages, which means that teams likely going to be looking for mid-game control, or potentially Poseidon being a pick here. That's going to be a high-priority one. But Team 22 taking a look at Hunbots, a god that's seen actually a pretty good amount of efficacy loss with the nerfs coming into him. And nope, it's going to be Poseidon. So there you are.
Yeah, I mean, the Honbass changes, I've made him drop off a little bit. He's been less focused on picks and bans. I'm quite surprised I've not seen a Hercules pick up yet, because I know North America seem to like Hercules a lot more than Europe does. That's for sure. Like, he's normally picked or banned during the early stages, but not this time. I'm going to see a Kumbhakana, though, so happy days for the Kumbha.
Yeah, I mean, locked in, basically instant pick there. Yeah, Hercules is an interesting god, kind of similar to Hades, but inverse. Hercules is a god that people often will quote or after will cite as saying, "Oh, this god is extremely potent." And as Hunbots is locked in for Scum, I think no real surprise there. A lot of AoE control there, but Hercules, a god that has a historically very low win rate, very low level of success, looking at metrics that would define success. And even though when you look at his numbers in his kit, you say, "Wow, that is just outrageous." You know, he's healing 110% of damage dealt. He has this ultimate that's dealing 700 base damage, Driving Strike dealing 400 plus, about 400 base damage, with just the levels of scaling it. Earthshaker, a very potent ability as well. I mean, all of his abilities are some of the best in the game, but still just players have a very hard time putting them together. And even in tournament play, we see it. I mean, he's just not being that effective at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, he's been left out for such a long time, and people are starting to pick him back up again. I feel Hercules is flavor of the month right now. However, we'll have to see as time goes on whether he actually just does become a staple and people actually unlock the real potential that's locked within Hercules, especially in competitive play. I mean, I know in solo queue he can be strong and become that beast.
Absolutely.
But in competitive play, teams seem to focus on things a lot differently, and they try and take things out or deal with issues like the Hercules. In different ways, like focusing them down. But we see Geb and Apollo being picked up already for Team 22. I like the Geb pickup more than anything, Bart, because he does deal with Kumbhakana's Mez very well. If you can position yourself with Geb correctly, you can instantly shield straight after the Mez hits and release your AD carry or your mid laner from that Mez and allow them to escape the issue that they could end up in when Kumbhakana lands that epic yawn.
Yeah, the good news right now for Team 22 is they have very mobile gods. They have Geb that can free them up, plus roll out for himself. Free up the Apollo or the Poseidon as it stands right now to get out of what Team Scum has drafted here, which is a very, very potent AoE lockdown comp. Artemis with a chain stun on her ultimate, plus a CC immunity. Hunbots, of course, his ultimate, the large AoE fear. And Kumbhakana bringing all of the Mez and single target lockdown on top of that to the table. We're looking for our final bans of the drafting phase here. Scum's going to take out Hyper Carry Jungler. This makes a lot of sense. Take out Mercury. You already have the Hunbots. Force them into something maybe. You take out Osiris and Mercury, in fact, so there's not a lot of great options for late-game hypercarry style damage. Granted, they have the Apollo, but as it stands, basically nothing is matching up toe-to-toe against Artemis 40 minutes plus.
No, and to take into account as well, look at these two teams on paper right now. Scum versus Team 22 in that duo lane. Kumbhakana and Artemis are going to have a field day against Geb and Apollo because Artemis naturally does well against Apollo. She can poke him from great range. And on top of that, Kumbhakana's got a lot better wave clear than Geb does. So they're going to be pushed to the tower quite consistently at Team 22. That they're going to have to play that one very passive during the early stages. We'll have to see how that one plays out and whether we'll see Poseidon rotating a lot and what kind of jungler they're going to look for to bring in. But Isis being picked up for the mid lane, not a shock against the Poseidon. It's a good matchup.
Yeah, snap pick of Isis there. Yeah, it does well against Poseidon. Really, the only god that can match Poseidon's wave clear. In fact, a bit better wave clear around level 3. Isis is going to start taking over that lane a bit. Shouldn't be able to put too much pressure on Poseidon without some misplays by Team 22 potentially. But Isis should have a pretty good matchup there. Taking a look now is Team 22 at Vamana and Sun Wukong to round out their lineup, which means that we'll be seeing a potential Sun Wukong jungle if they lock this in.
Could be a Vamana jungle as well. That has started to rise on the EU side as well. So, I mean, someone can go in the solo lane and can go in the jungle. We've just seen him drop off a little bit, but he's still got the potential of what he used to do on Guardian overall. And it has been locked in, so we will be seeing that Sun Wukong either in the solo or jungle.
Yeah, I feel like my expectation here is that it is going to be Vamana solo. I just feel like Vamana doesn't bring a lot to the table as a jungler when it comes to ganking. But granted, Team 22 doesn't have a very gank-heavy lineup. Scum, on the other hand, a very, very potent gank lineup. Basically, 5 large AoE teamfight ultimates, a lot of lockdown, and a lot of burst. With Isis bringing the sustained damage to the table, basically, here, versus Team 22 that is going to be relying very heavily, it feels like, on Poseidon for the burst. They're going to be looking for, Cataclysm into some Wukong cat form stuns with Krakens on top of it, and then Apollo and Vamana with late rotations to clean up those fights. So it's going to be, can they survive that beginning burst of Scum? And I feel like a lot of this is going to be riding on, well, the support player, Smite McSmite, playing that Geb.
Yeah, it's also going to rely a lot on Team 22 using their mobility, because every single one of those gods has got ridiculous mobility on them. So if they can use that wisely, they can make sure they don't get caught in a big AoE team fight, which is exactly what Scúm is going to be looking for the most part.
Yeah, it could be a little awkward for them here, because Vamana's probably going to be the only god here that doesn't want to buy beads. Geb likely will not be buying them, as he's going to need the Hand of the Gods, plus probably another support active. Most likely going to be a Blink. But Apollo, Sun Wukong, and Poseidon likely all will need to go ahead and pick up beads, or they're going to be kind of easy to pick off. Sun Wukong may try to go for something clever like a Creeping Curse to bring a little more control to the fights. But, I mean, when you look at this team, do you invest really heavily in anti-heal for the Chalk, or do you try to slow down the attack speeds to work on the Hun bots and the Artemis when it comes to where you take that Creeping Curse? I still feel like maybe Beads 3 needs to have a very strong showing here for the boys of Team 22.
Oh, definitely. I mean, Beads, you've got Fear No Evil, then you've got the Epic Uppercut, then you've got the Ball, then you've got Isis's Spirit Ball, and then on top of that, you've got Check Silence. I mean, that combination is just disgusting to try and avoid. So even if you get through one of them, you've still got the other ones to contend with. So hopefully Scum go into this one realizing that's going to be one of their benefits of forcing them into early Beads, especially around the first Gold Fury fight.
Now, granted, Apollo's Mez can kind of change everything here. He's just so mobile. He brings so much damage. He can crash in, maybe Mez a couple targets. He'll get the Cataclysm, or follow up a Cataclysm with it, and a Kraken ultimate in it. If Team 22 can find a way to somehow pick off 1 or 2 members of the team fight early on, they have a very good team for cleaning up the retreating Team Scum, who is far less mobile, as you mentioned. But we'll see how it all does shake out, ladies and gentlemen. For Hindu Man, my name is hi-rez Bart, and we are going to be live in just a few moments here as the Spectator Client counts down with game number 1 here in the Smite World Championship Series qualifying weeks. It is Team 22 versus Scum. Up next, don't go anywhere. Gentlemen, welcome to our first game today out of the round of 32. It is Team 22 versus Scum, and we are underway. Let's go ahead and introduce your teams. They are the blue team, fighting out of the bottom side of the minimap and losing the first auto attack war. It is Team 22. They are Savage Pope and not Desi. It will be actually Savage Pope and Smite McSmite pairing up for the dual lane, Apollo and Geb. It'll be not Desi in the jungle as Sun Wukong. It's going to be Poseidon in the mid lane for not Valzor, and Sexy Nugget will be taking up the solo lane. Vamana and Geb is taking a lot of damage here.
Yeah, he really
for
is.
really no reason. From their opponents, which are Team Scum, they are fighting out of the Chaos side of the map, top side of the minimap, and the right side of your Spectator UI. It is Demi, Devil, and McElroy are going to be combining for the Kumbhakarna Artemis dual lane. Isis in the mid lane for Black Outer. Headshot in the jungle as Hun bots, and it'll be Get Wrecked as the solo lane Chalk, and also a lot of death tolls over here for Team Scum.
Yeah, there is. I mean, one thing we're going to notice as well, we'll have a quick look over at Team 22 and their starting builds. We're going to see it's going to be Sun Wukong in the jungle. However, we can see Vamana, Sexy Nugget there, has started with the Smithy's Hammer. So it looks like he's probably going to go for an early Runeforged hammer in the early stages, which will give him extra protection once he starts to build up. Sorry, it will give him extra damage once he starts to build up a little bit more defense in that, but nothing unusual. We might see an early invade on the right-hand side, though, Bart, as they're going to try and contest this blue.
Yeah, blue's sitting about half health here, so it is going to be a successful, at least disruption. They're going to get the reset. Not Desi in a lot of trouble here. The next auto attack is going to go ahead and clean him up. So headshot on that Hun bots, man. That orange buff Hun bots, so hard to get away from. Ability to teleport to you, plus the overhead smash bringing some nice burst damage. And alternatively, he could have skilled his leap for the slow as well. So they have a lot of options to really be a nuisance in the early game there. And Chalk, of course, bringing just, a fair amount of burst damage to the table with his level 1 torrent and axe combination there. So it's a definitely a tall task to get early clear against him. And I think maybe what we saw there is just potentially a little bit of late rotation, or even just the kind of the clear power of Sun Wukong just not very good at, the early levels. I mean, realistically, this is very much a warrior now. With the attack speed nerfs, his clear time on the camps is quite a bit slower.
Yeah, I mean, take into account as well, those early invades are so standard nowadays of people trying to rotate over, get the early clear, and the people that start in that mid camps at the start of the game, which puts them further behind. Vamana there doesn't fall too far behind, but he has lost his blue buff now in that lane, so he's going to be a bit more of an ass, already back to base. So Wukong's finally going to rotate in there to pick up and secure the lane and catch himself up a little bit. Surprised he didn't go straight back after dying, though, knowing the blue was still up. But for the time being, Scúm with a small early lead, and that's going to really help out Hombats in the jungle.
Yeah, and a couple things that we neglected to mention there about that early engagement. No hog on Vamana is what made that perhaps so successful, as well as the fact is that Desi had picked up a red pot and now will no longer have access to that 400 gold is wasted. And as we mentioned, the clear of Sun Wukong, certainly not something to write home about. So going to be a tall task for not Desi from Team 22 to get back into this game in a meaningful way, catch the Hunbots, who's already a level ahead.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the worst things to sparse down the red pot. If you lose that pot early on, you have wasted the 400 gold immediately. At least by investing into pots or elsewhere, into like Hog 2, for example, you can at least push back and get yourself back in it, even if you do die early. But 400 gold wasted, so that's going to give Headshot a big lead on the two jungler sides overall, in terms of itemization as well.
Absolutely, and mid lane here, not Valzor, has lost a lot of lane kind of positioning here to Blackouter. Blackouter sitting on, well, full HP and 3/4 mana. Valzor about half HP, half mana. In a bit of trouble. He doesn't have a ward here to see Headshot. That is a Scum ward just off to the right side of mid lane here.
The Scum ward, I like that name.
Yeah, that's there you go. Yeah, we'll call that ward the Scum ward now, I guess, forever and ever. But here comes rotations from the supports end of the mid lane. Looks like Scum going to look to put a bit of pressure here into the mid lane and try to force off the ability and their access really to these side camps. It'll be right side Hunbots, left side will be both the Kumba and the Isis.
22 need to give this up. They need to give up these camps. They can't contest. The rest of the team are level 5 and Scum are in better position. No. Spirit Ball connects and Desi taking a lot of damage. There's the Mez coming out once again from Kumba. They're just going to back off. They've just got to give him up. I mean, already Hombats has taken right side. He's going to rotate in with Fear No Evil. This could be a big issue, but big issue.
Yeah, this is going to be a dead Geb without an ultimate use, it looks like here. They may be forced using up. That Kumba ultimate is going to seal the deal. Epic uppercut. Down he goes, and they still have his Hunbot's ultimate available. He may be backstabbing here. Isis wants to move in, but with not enough mana for another Spirit Ball and Wing Dust combination. Not going to go deep just yet, but Headshot still looking around for this kill. No, he just leaps right in place awkwardly there. That, I guess to get the crit chance up on a not Valzor. Okay, that makes sense. Here we go. There's going to be an ultimate coming out into the mid lane where he is going to have the auto attacks. And down they are going to be going with a nicely placed last little bouncing monkey there.
Yeah, the bouncing monkey. In the left-hand lane, though, McElroy did actually use the ball looking to pick up Apollo, but Apollo, playing by Savage Pope here, did okay for himself, managed to get away before the ball connected, so he's not doing too bad in this lane for a matchup that's not the easiest one for him in the world, to be honest, but if he can keep himself going, then he's got opportunities for the split push as the time goes on. We're going to have to see how the rest of the team do, because at the moment, mid lane's not having the greatest time. Vamana is way behind Chuck, and he's able to just roam around the map now into the jungle and help Headshot there steal away buffs as well.
Yeah, so they're going to continue keeping Team 22 down. They've already built a really a sizable gold difference at this point in the game. 2,000 gold, and maybe more importantly, 3,000 experience in favor of Team Scum as they continue to keep. That's 2 major camps they've stolen now. The early blue buff for the soul lane, the second spawn on the red buff for the mid lane. Poseidon already falling behind the Isis. I mean, you can see here already he's a little bit concerned about even approaching the wave, which he's using Wing Dust there, just because of the amount of harass he's been able to put out and the amount of lane control that the Isis player here in Blackouter has been able to exert over not Valzor.
Yeah, not Valzor is actually 600 gold behind right now already in these early stages, and those small little differences, basically that's a part of the way to a Rod of Tahuti, That's like item 1 of Rod of Tahuti being picked up easily there in difference in gold right now, or it's 2 actives. So you're going to have to see as this game goes on if he can just hold this lane, but his tower's taking a lot of damage here, Bart.
Yeah, I mean, basically this has been a lane that has been completely won by Blackouter. They really need the jungle to kind of rotate over and help out on these kills, but you gotta feel like if Desi shows himself in the lane, he's just gonna get gibbed. Like, yeah. It's not even gonna be pretty.
Desi's behind. I mean, Smite, he's okay at the moment. He's a level behind the Kumbhakana already, but that can happen with the supports. It's not the biggest thing in the world when a support gets a little bit behind. But you can just see, look at Isis in mid lane, able to just push in 3 members of Team 22.
Really look at Desi here. Got hit by one of those Wing Dust balls and is lost about, we'll say about a 7th or 8th of his health there. So, I mean, Wing Gust right now probably going to be taking him down to about 50%, and he even uses the Hog on the blue buff there and falls back, letting it reset. Just is desperate to get XP, and now isn't going to have very much, well, really contention here at these mid buff camps. Likely both to go back to Scum.
Yeah, and we can see on the left-hand side, Headshots looking for an opportunity onto Apollo, hoping he will come out of the lane to go in. He's going to jump over the wall, look for the Fear No Evil, does connect. Nice damage coming out. Ball wasn't even needed there by McElroy, and that's going to go down. If he cut back to mid lane, you can see aggression again, but the camp does go to Team 22, but Kumba's there.
It's just way too much damage coming out right now. There's another Kumba uppercut into a Kraken for not Bowser to try to get these gods off him, but he's not going to have any chance as the spell magic comes out, silencing him, getting that slow as well, letting Hunbots rein in those auto attacks. That's a lot of action for the Hunbots. He's been involved in all 6 kills for Scum so far, and now they're going to go for that early Gold Fury.
Yeah, I mean, that was just really nicely played from all the members of Scum, being able to rotate into mid, take the camps away. Can Desi do anything here? This isn't worth him staying around. He tried to make a late play, and he could actually pay the price for that because the Mez connects. There's the Spirit Ball. Can he get on his Cloud? Nope, not today. He's going to drop 7-0. Scum are being Scum.
Yeah. I'm not sure what the play was there for Desi. Hog 1 wasn't going to steal that away with the Jingo Bang, I can't imagine. And yeah, he's just going to donate that death back over to Team Scum, and they're going to have a pretty hard time now defending this mid lane as well. Black Outer has a full wave going in, about 4 or 5 auto attacks, now sitting at just under probably about an 8th HP is that tower, which means that any rotation will likely be able to secure it. They won't even really need to pull any of the big DPSers to try to take this thing down. Probably a little bit of pressure from Kumbakarna can get Poseidon out of this lane, or even a Spirit Ball. One Spirit Ball hit means the tower goes down. It's a tough position for not Valzor. In fact, Team 22, as you see, is going to pull Smite McSmite over here towards the mid lane to help out.
But look at the team as well. Headshot on that Hun Bat. He's level 11. We can see Get Wrecked just pick that up on Chuck as well. But level 11 on the jungler compared to where not Desi is on that Sun Wukong at level 7. It's a 4-level difference between the junglers here right now. And Headshot's just able to dominate his will on the whole of the team now, being able to rotate around, pick up camps, and you can see Gebs trying to help defend right-hand lane now because things are just not going well for them anywhere.
Yeah, gonna rotate Sun Wukong as well, but he's been spotted out by this ward, so Get Wrecked gonna just happily fall back. In fact, he can probably safely farm here against all 3 of these gods, sitting 2 levels ahead of the highest. And he's a chalk, certainly not any type of slouch with the Creepy Curse rank 2. We'll be able to kite very, very effectively. We're going to see red buff stolen yet again here by Headshot. Actually going to pick it up this time, and there's a fight breaking out just to the right of the Fire Giant.
Yeah, big silence coming out from Chak on the backside. Humbas does use the Fear No Evil onto Sun Wukong, who gets evaporated! That amount of damage! Get Wrecked takes out Geb, though, of all people. And now the team are trying to rush away, and it looks like Poseidon's got himself caught out of position, drops the Whirlpool, but great Spirit Ball, keeping him inside the circle of protection. Headshot picks himself up another kill. A sexy Nugget has to sexy himself back to tower.
Now, it looks like it's going to be a 4-man dive here into the tower. They're going to see Sun Wukong move up into the ultimate. That's a couple of CC immune targets there. So Kumbakarna a little bit late on the draw. Just missed that blink by just a hair. But now Desi doesn't have that ultimate available. Neither does Nugget. And yeah, they're going to have a tall task for them here as these archers move into range. It looks like Scum's actually going to fall back a bit and perhaps look to clean up the rest of the jungle in the mid camps. Yeah,
this is a good call from them. I mean, they got wins out of that. They got some kills. Now they're going to be able to pick up both mid camps for free. Really good decision not to try and overstay the welcome. They could have tried to push and put more pressure on, but what's the worth in doing that when you can just go and take these free camps and then continue the pressure like they have been doing. Level 12 on Headshot now, clearly doing great work for his team ever since that first blood he picked up, and he's really, really causing a lot of issues for Team 22.
Yeah, it's one thing to be down, a handful of kills, 7, 8, 5, however many kills it's going to be, but when you're down, 9 kills and 8 of them, 5 kills, 3 assists onto the jungler that's a hyper carry style jungler like Hunbots, it's going to be very, very difficult for you to come back into the game at this point. I mean, basically, they're going to need a 5-man wipe and a tower or 2 to really have a good shot of taking the fight to Scum in the mid game. As we mentioned here, in kind of the early game, Team 22 doesn't have really a great game phase against the team that Scum has drafted. Artemis is going to be able to take the hyper late game. They have great mid game control with the Kumbakarna and Chalk combination. They have Hunbots for basically early game dominance. Hunbots really strong basically at all stages of the game, especially when ahead with an early Jotun's Wrath like this. And Isis brings a lot to the table in terms of team fight as well. Where you look over Team 22, and you would say normally a team that has Apollo and Vamana has a great shot to be taking the late game, but I don't think they go toe-to-toe very well with the Hunbots and Artemis.
I mean, generally, with this matchup that we're seeing on paper, Team 22 should have good advantages in 1v1 scenarios, but because Scum has this lead with this AoE composition, you can see the damage just in mid lane, for example, of every single one of these lanes. They're going to be able to 1v1 everybody. You know, they could just have straight 1v1s, not need the team fights where they're going to be the strongest to actually just continue to close out this game.
You bring up a good point, right? I mean, the strength of their lineup is really the strength of their laning phase. And I suppose kind of the lockdown that Sun Wukong can bring to the table. Oh, he's going to be taking a spill here as the ultimates start coming out right on top of him. They're perfectly happy to just keep that that Sun Wukong down in the gutter. I mean, you really don't want him being a wrecking force
Gab,
in the late stage of the game. Gab now going to be in trouble. They don't have another ultimate. They do have the Ice Sylph. I'm sorry. To clean that up, Smite takes becomes Pebbles, I guess, here in his own juggle as Scúm is just roaming the map. They're not going to turn their sights on Poseidon, who is going to die to overhead smash. And the Isis Ball with the red buff on top. I mean, it's the level advantages right now. The base damage of these abilities is just too high. They're going to go ahead and backdoor the mid tower as well, will Scúm, and take the first tower of the game.
Golfior is due up soon, but I mean, with Scúm in this position right now, I mean, from an EU standpoint, I mean, we just saw Apollo go down as well to McElroy in this lane. Like, every lane is losing here for Team 22. And I'm not a big proponent of doing the surrender vote, but in this situation, I don't see a way back in for Team 22 here, in all honesty.
Yeah, I mean, they've lost all their lanes now. They really lost every position. They lost the duo lane. They've lost now the 1v1 as well, and the back half of the duo lane. They lost the mid lane, and they lost the solo lane, and their jungler is, what, 4 or 5 levels behind. It is going to be a very, very tall task, I agree. Although, I mean, getting a bit of experience, kind of understanding exactly how they are doing what they're doing to you, perhaps, or giving you maybe just a little bit longer VOD to go back and take a look at these games and say, well, look at how they transitioned into, you know, the 15-minute mark. Maybe that's the value of kind of staying in the game right now for Team 22. Taking a look at really the builds here, you know, Savage Pope on the Apollo he actually has a decent opportunity to kill the Artemis. Has gone for the Executioner Devourer's Gloves versus the Boots here onto the Artemis, building into her Balance Blade. So for the moment, at least, he has more damage and with some very, very nicely placed abilities to like the kill.
Again.
But let's check the jungle here where Desi actually going to be saved by Gedge to get up into the Somersault Cloud, not Balzor. Gonna knock up the combo, not die just yet.
Oh, over the wall!
Through the wall. Clever play there by Blackouter. And now he's gonna try to run away from this Vamana. Apollo crashing in. They may actually find their first kills of the game here. Can they secure the kill on the Blackouter? Savage gotta land the auto attacks. There it is. Not Desi with a Jingu bang. And it's gonna be a full-on retreat from Scúm.
So 1 kill for Team 22. They're going to be happy with that one, actually getting some gold. Don't forget, you know, taking players out in this stage is great for them because he will get extra experience, I do believe, if they kill people. Is that correct, or am I just talking rubbish?
Sorry, say again?
You get more experience for killing people, correct?
You get more experience for killing, if you get the killing blow. I believe so, yeah.
Oh, just the killing blow. Okay, I thought it was the whole team. That's a shame. I'll have to kill secure more often as a support, I think, just to make sure I can catch up on XP.
That's right.
That's what I'm learning.
So good news here. Looking at Team 22, gotta love the fact that they are sitting on 8 wards right now. I mean, if you're gonna find a way back into the game, it is going to be through warding right now. I mean, it's going to be finding out these rotations and getting a pick onto the level 16 Hun bots, yielding a lot of bounty for his 7-0 streak, plus being quite a substantially higher level than the rest of the team. That's going to be a big kill if they can find it.
If you look at the charts as well, you can see with the new chart graphs, you can see Humbats his top kills, top gold on his team. But Isis, you know, doing well for herself in that middle lane is actually top damage overall. So it shows that she's putting out a lot of pressure on that middle lane. She's really caused a lot of issues with those Spirit Balls too. It's one of those skills that seems very easy to land, but it can be very, very difficult to make sure it does land in the correct direction, or at least stun at the right time because of the depth of view.
Yeah, it's maybe deceptively difficult to play. They're going to go hunting of a mana here, but I doubt they're going to find anything. He's just, the clear of the path is just a little bit too strong to kind of try to pursue him when he already has
left hand lane. McElroy's going to take down Apollo again. The borders get popped, can't get across the skies available for himself, so he's going to drop down because it was on cooldown. And this is what Scúm need to do. They just need to group up now and start dominating the will as a whole team, because there's no way Team 22 can team fight an AoE team, especially when they're this far behind.
Yeah, the issue here, kind of, I was mentioning the Devourer's Gloves and Executioner build for Savage Pope, giving him a bit of a damage advantage, but Artemis's passive crit is probably taking care of that just fine. And really the difference here is combat boots. They were rank 1, in fact, as more kills coming out into the right side here as Scúm just won't quit. But Artemis is able to kill Apollo here because she has the sprint 2 plus the boots 3. He was sitting on just boots 1, and so after the dash, it's an easy chase down for that Artemis. It's a very difficult position. Really all across support for 22.
So first tier 2 tower of the game goes down. They're all going to rotate to the left lane, look to take that one out with Artemis there. We're going to rotate in. The rest of the team, though, rotate to the mid camps once again, keeping their experience going and keep them behind. Nice groggy strike coming out from Cumber to try and zone, but they could be caught out of position here. Silence was used by GetWrecked there, but not for any real big win. But some free poke damage coming down from Artemis. There's the tower going down. A great blink and yawn combination in, but Apollo with a great response and escape.
Yeah, and a little bit of awkward timing there as the Artemis in hand was flying as the Mez came out, breaking it instantly. And then, as you mentioned, nice reaction times from the Apollo there, throwing a Mez of his own and dashing on out. But Scúm continues to exert pressure around the map, now going into the mid lane where they already have the tier 2 down. Only one tower remains, 2 Phoenix exposed, 14-22. And, well, I suppose that there is an opportunity here for a Cataclysm into Kraken to maybe turn this game around, but it's going to take probably 3 or 4 team fights at this point for 22 to have a good chance at winning.
Big example between the level difference right now. Desi is level 11, has the Chins finished as well as his Warrior Tabi, but on the other side, Headshot level 18, has the Jotuns, his Tabi, and has just completed the Deathbringer. So if he wasn't doing damage before, then he's going to be dealing some now.
Yeah, Hunbots is basically the strongest that he has been this entire game, right at this moment, finishing up the Deathbringer, sitting at double the level of the enemy support, 4 levels ahead of the enemy carry, and 6 levels ahead of the enemy mid, and it's just going to be a straight giant here for Scúm. They're not. They say, and it's a good idea, right?
Well, they've got a chance. I mean, Team 22 have got a chance.
Contest. Well, but if they come to contest here, it's gonna be
the Fatal Evil comes out. Yep.
Yeah, it's just gonna be easy kills here for Headshot. He's just way too big for them to try to fight without picking him off. They can't just take him toe to toe. As you see, I mean, it's not very often you're gonna see the assassin jungler kind of pulling out to go zone the enemy team. Although it's a big whirlpool Kraken here, a lot of damage coming out. Devil gonna be the one to spill, but he is already well, he's doing just fine with his passive there, and a single crit is going to explode Savage Pope, and that's gonna be a deicide with a Fire Giant buff on top of it. Kumba Karna passive OP as he is just gonna lay there, take a quick nap in the Fire Giant pit, get right back up, and that's gonna be an easy wipe.
Yeah, and Scúm straight away going to start pushing down mid, use that Fire Giant, take this Phoenix out. Only Geb's alive for the moment. Respawn times are kind of low still because we're still within 20 minutes, so not going to pick up too much. They will be able to get the Fire Giant for sure, though, and they're going to put the pressure onto Geb once again with the Groggy Strike. Overall, epic uppercut use. They're going to try and confirm. Great Spirit Ball combination. That was nicely timed. But Geb's going to escape for the most part. No, he's not, because Wingust over the wall. This should be GG, but I think they're going to back out because they're getting kind of low on HP.
Yeah, they're going to let the Fire Giant buff pick itself back up nicely here. They're going to... Jeez. I mean, Isis Spirit Ball taking a 1/6 of Vamana's HP is really, really scary. I mean, the fact that your frontline bruiser that's traditionally the god that is impossible to kill is getting just absolutely chunked by the enemy mid lane mage is just not boding well for Team 22 here. It's going to be very hard for them to take any kind of extended fight. They got to find a pick somehow. But Scúm, on the other hand, just staying clumped up.
Scúm's just got to keep being Scúm and just keep it going.
Coming it up.
Coming it up. So Gulf Fury is available for them. They'll probably rotate over and take that one before trying to do the push for the Phoenix finally. Sorry, for the last Phoenixes and the Titan. From Team 22's point of view though, Bob, what do you think they need to work on? I think overall, I guess the jungler, not Desi. I mean, picking Sun Wukong is kind of a weak pick nowadays in the jungle.
Yeah, well, I'm not so sure that it's necessarily on the back of saying it's the Sun Wukong pick.
No, not at all.
Although you're right. I mean, it is quite weak. I think the main issue here is picking the Sun Wukong when drafting a Vamana that's not going to pick up Hog. It makes your blue can't control just basically 0.
I mean, when they lost that blue comp at the start, they just put Headshot in a great position. Already Isis was having a good time mid. And it's a really big ask for Team 22 from that point because, you know, Humbats was rotating everywhere then.
I think that maybe it was... Yeah, I mean, it's not picking the Hog on the Vamana, drafting some Wukong into Hunbots and Shock, and not really expecting that they were just going to invade you. Right? You got to expect they're at least going to come and pressure your blue buff, and if you don't take a Hog there... I'm sorry, you should expect it with those 2 gods. So they have the more potent level 1, and if once they notice you don't have the Hand of the God, it's going to be a free steal. So I think maybe that's just where it all fell apart for them.
Definitely. I mean, Vamana did get spotted by the ward early on in the game as well, so they would have seen he didn't have the Hog, so it was a great call from Scúm if they did notice that.
Oh, that's a big blink,
Mez. Groggy Strike going to connect as well. Poseidon's in trouble. Humbats, Fear No Evil connects. There's a Kraken. Does a little bit of damage, but not enough. Or is it? Because Headshot's getting low, but that damage was ridiculous. He jumps away, but still going to go down to Sexy Nugget, who's there trying to do the damage for his team, but for how long is the question? He's getting low. He's slowly getting chunked down by GetWrecked, and oh my goodness, those wing gusts.
Yeah, the wing gust on top of the chin size from both the Artemis and the Chalk ripped through the Vamana there. And that fight went about as well as Team 22 could have hoped for. They did find a kill onto the Hunbots finally, but it looks like it's not going to matter. He's 11-1 and 11. That's a lot of hash marks, and this is going to be a 21-minute game in favor of Team Scum. 22 having a tough time handling the early pressure, mid pressure, and late pressure, really, from Scum there.
Yeah, Scum did a really good job right from the outset. Mid lane did very, very well for themselves. Left-hand lane went kind of even until Headshot showed up over there, but Headshot really played well for his team overall. So big shout outs to Honbats and ISIS in that game from Scum. Those guys did really well. I want to know what you're doing with me on stream now, because it's really... I have to keep switching on the stream after the games to go, what have they done with me now? I'm really worried. I'm still a ghost.
No. You're ghostly.
I don't know why am I a ghost production? Like...
Yeah.
They're blaming me. They're blaming me.
Lighting.
Okay, right.
Okay, so taking a look here at the end of a match stats. 18 assists for Kumbhakarna out of the 27 kills on the team. Very, very well played, but Headshot. 11-1 and 11.
11.
Early game start. Wonderful build as well. Taking that Deathbringer, going right into Titan's Bane for the end of his build there. It looks like that will conclude 22 versus Scum. Up next, into man, we have Team Resist is going to be making their way to the table. If you are following along at home, let's go grab the bracket matchup. Yes, versus a Mighty Storm. That is going to be from the round of 16 on the top side of your bracket. So a couple of names that we have certainly heard before. A couple of, multi-week contenders here in the North American Smite World Championship Series. It is a Mighty Storm versus Resist Gaming. Hinderman, any final thoughts before we move on to that one?
Nope. I'm just looking forward to it.
All right, right on.
I'm going to click my fingers now and hopefully I'll disappear. Are you ready?
Oh, this is going to be good.
2, 1.
Hinderman out. Not quite. No, you're not magical. You're just really, really charismatic. So, ladies and gentlemen, enjoy a brief break here. Go grab a drink. We'll be right back in just a couple of minutes with our next game. It is going to be a Mighty Storm versus Resist. Don't go anywhere for Hinderman. I'm hi-rez Bart. We'll see you in just a few.